So, man, it's super cool to see everyone. So thanks for everybody that's joining us on Zoom. And whether folks realize it or not, we are also broadcasting to startwheel.org/live. So the folks that are joining us on Startwheel, welcome to them as well. Thanks everyone for joining. And we have past mentors and judges and other supporters of Start that are with us today. So it's really great to bring everyone back together. And of course, we have to thank our sponsors because we wouldn't be able to do this without them. And this year, our host city is Newport News. Seems like anytime something big or crazy happens, Newport News is the place that is the host locality. So thank you so much to Newport News. Couldn't do this without you. City of Hampton, James City County, City of Williamsburg, York County, in the city of Pocosin. I think I captured everybody there. But also we have a lot of other people in terms of that are helping out and supporting. So we have 757 Accelerate, Crimdell, Ferguson Ventures, the Greater Williamsburg Business Council, the Small Business Development Center, the Launchpad, the Alan B. Miller Entrepreneurship Center, Old Dominion Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, Patent Portfolio Builders, Retail Alliance, Startwheel Tech Center, the Virginia Peninsula Chamber, and the York County Chamber as well. So there's just so many people that join us that support entrepreneurship. And I just think it's really, really important, one, to acknowledge them for what they're doing, but two, so that you all realize these are folks are supporting you and cheering you on and supporting you any way that they can. So it's nice to know that they're there, especially on those dark days that we've all had as entrepreneurs trying to push forward. But real quick, before we kick everything off, I wanted to one thing that's interesting about entrepreneurship is the fact that we tend to look forward at everything. And whether if we're solving tomorrow's problems today, we're trying to get out there in the market ahead of everyone else. So we're always looking forward, seeing what we can do, grab whatever market share we can. And we don't ever really look back at the obstacles that we've overcome, the challenges that we have we've overcome as well. And it's like, as I was looking at the names that were coming in for folks that registered, I was like, wow, we've done a lot of cool things with Start Peninsula. This is our 9th year, almost 9 years to the day that we first started planning the first Start Peninsula. And to look at what we've been able to do and overcome is really cool. And the whole idea of Start Peninsula has kind of evolved over the course of the last 9 years. But the whole idea of Start Peninsula is to validate your business idea. So before you quit your day job, before you cash in your life savings, before you do anything crazy like that, this is the place where you can validate. You pitch it to a bunch of judges and see, if you should take that next step. And Start Peninsula, in my mind, has done that, especially when we look at the different companies that are here today. It is really cool to see everything that we have done. So it's great to look back. And now we're going to be joined together tonight so that we can rekindle those relationships, talk to one another, learn from one another. And it'll be a really, really fun night. Some of the accomplishments that we've had, it's just that within itself is really cool. We've had a Shark Tank winner with Safety Nailer. They had a deal with Mark Cuban and Lori Grenier. We've had a White House appearance. We've had 8 companies that have gone on to graduate with different accelerators throughout the area. You guys have raised more than $10 million in funding altogether. It's just like, it's super cool. You guys, this program wouldn't be what it is today without you all. And to have alumni here, along with people that are either they've made it to the next round in 2021 that they're going to pitch in November, or people that are kicking the tires, applying to pitch in the next couple of micro pitches that we've had. This is all about helping out one another, giving back to one another. And so you all are a sense of inspiration for those people that are getting ready to enter the world of entrepreneurship. So some of the companies that we have tonight, so from our inaugural year in 2012, we have Jeremy Alessi. And I hope that everybody is here. I can't see everyone that has joined us thus far, but Nate Marcus is in the house. Nate from Occasion Genius, 2015. 2017, we have Erica McMahons from Instant Teams. 2018, we have two winners. We have Janae Sasso from Senior Runs, and we have Eunice Coffee Obeng from New Weki. And then in 2020, we have Peter from Wave Coffee, and I see Roger and Celeste from Hot Rock. So we have several different years that have that are represented here tonight, and I guess so real quick, the ground rules. We're going to keep things light. We're going to keep things fun. Like I said, it's here to connect with one another. If for some reason somebody wants to jump into a private room, we can do that. Just hit Gavin up, and then we can. He's a co-host, so he can make that happen. If anybody has any questions, let's just keep this open and conversational so that we can learn from one another. And with that, I mean, we'll just go around. Jeremy, since you're the senior person, senior winner, you have a cool story. You started something back in 2012 and you're on to something new. But Jeremy, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us quickly what you have going on?
Sure. So Jeremy Alessi, founder of Stream SDK, as it says right around here somewhere. And I came into Start Peninsula I was always an entrepreneur, but sort of prior to Start Peninsula, I think that I was an entrepreneur just in the sense that I wanted to make my own money. And so the businesses that I had run prior to coming into Start were, I had a business designing websites for people. I had a small construction business. And then I made video games. And at the time, I think that I had always just been trying to get to making video games. And then I had reached that and I had a couple of successful games on iPhone. And I realized that these games were very hit or miss. So you could have a successful game and then you could have a string of games that weren't so successful. And as it turns out, this is a trend with video games that Bill Gates had identified a long time ago, that they're hit driven and unpredictable. And so at Microsoft, besides Xbox and Flight Simulator, they always tried to minimize their exposure to risk via gaming. So at the time for myself in 2012, 9 years ago, that's kind of where I was coming into that frame of mind. And so I wanted to do something a little bit more, I think, utilitarian. And that's when I started paying attention to, I'd been kind of reading the news, VentureBeat, things like that, watching other companies. What are they doing more in the utilitarian world? And I guess I'd, tell the story again where I had fixed my air conditioner with a friend over FaceTime and realized that, that could be a business where you could fix something in your house by video chatting with somebody. So I think in 2012 might have been a little bit early for it, but pitched the idea obviously at Start, and a lot of people liked that idea, and it was successful. Afterwards, it was this type of thing where I had built my own technology to do it. So since I had that skill set as a video game developer, and I think right at the same time, WebRTC was starting to be developed. That's kind of the funny thing. There was no really like off the shelf build your own video chat type of toolkit. So you had Skype, but they didn't have an API or anything like that. So they were really like a really early, sort of video chat type thing. So I decided to build my own. And because Handheld Handyman, which was the idea that I actually pitched at Start Peninsula, I think it was early in a number of different ways. So there was another startup that got going around the same time, couldn't quite get traction. Google themselves created something called Helpouts. They launched that maybe 6 months or a year after the first Start Peninsula. They didn't get much traction with that. My assessment, just a little early, but in the meantime, I had built this core technology. So I started selling it on the Unity Asset Store for about $50. And it became like this source of recurring revenue. I don't think I ever thought it really had like huge potential. It just to me, after Start, there was a lot of learning that I had to do, and I did a lot of exploration, but I always kept this video chat technology that I created for Start going. And I just took feature requests over the years, and any customers that come around and say, hey, can you make it do this? Can you make it do that? Then about 6 years later, in 2018, I found myself in a position of selling the SDK for about $2,500 a pop. And I had customers like Microsoft and Charter Communications and some other big ones. And so I think that's when I started to realize that it was probably a bigger idea than I had given it credit for. And so I started looking at how I would really sort of scale this up, and how could this streaming technology that I created become a big thing. And it had grown to be much more than just video chat. So it started out, I just wanted to make a video chat so that an expert and a homeowner could chat with each other. But we're at the point now where it's real-time interactive streaming. And so, you can literally just, the idea of controlling something, but very fast. So we're building something with it right now called Nucade. And that's, I don't know if anybody knows what cloud gaming is, but the idea is that it's actually so fast that you can play a video game from thousands of miles away, and there's essentially no latency.
Awesome.
And so that the technology has evolved to that point. And one of the things that I realized as the tool progressed, I'd say in 2018, I was getting good money for the tool, but the big companies were just using it as like a quick prototyping tool when to fill in the gaps when, say, some sort of code wasn't compiling on a certain processor or something. And the way that I had created mine was more abstract, and so it kind of run on everything. I wanted to also expand it to be a real platform building tool, not just a prototyping tool. And there's two things that go along with that. One, I had never built a platform with it, and there's a really big difference between something where you can whip up a prototype and then you can build a whole platform with. And two, it did seem a little bit like people's imaginations hadn't been jogged with exactly how you could make big money using real-time interactive streaming. And so I wanted to give them a use case and say, listen, if you use it like this, this is a way in which you could generate a ton of money. Because I just noticed that by marketing the tool, and we've got like hundreds of developers that have used it, but in marketing the tool, what I realized is in anything that you market, there's a certain degree of friction. Like on the gaming front, the friction has to be extremely low for people to come in. If there's any effort at all, it's like, what's a game? I don't want to deal with any friction. When you're selling a developer tool, the friction can be high, but the motivation to go through the friction also has to be extremely high. And I think the thing in the streaming world is I don't think that people have really realized the true potential of what real-time interactive streaming can bring to the table. And so I wanted to create an example of that. And that's kind of where I'm at right now is,
Awesome.
got the tool, working on, showing people motivation, how it could really have kind of like an apex use case for real-time interactive streaming.
Cool. I'll go on to Erica. You're next to me. So real quick, what's Instant Teams up to?
Yeah, well, when we won in 2017, we were actually called something else. So we were Mad Skills when we pitched and won, and actually made a complete brand change about 4 months later, which was a huge process. But we have grown tremendously. When we pitched in 2017, it was myself and my co-founder, and now this fall will just be 4 years. We have a core team of 50 and over 400 W2 employees. So you can imagine the growth curve that has happened in the past 4 years, and there's more lessons learned than we will have time for. So I'm always happy to find on anything. I'm the COO, so I spend a lot of time in all the operational efforts, still oversee marketing, people operations, and customer success on a daily basis. So have learned all of that in real time. True entrepreneur. I have 2 degrees that have nothing to do with business or entrepreneurship. So have learned all of that in real time and have failed forward enough to know that is how you do it. And we've done great. And part of that is, the support and people and believing in what you're doing from day one and growing upon that every time you put yourself out there. So I'm just super thankful to be part of this alumni network. It's super cool. It's opened up a lot of doors just for me personally in the area. I'm active duty military spouse. So I've moved 12 times in 19 years. And having a network as an entrepreneur is kind of hard, right? Because I just keep moving. But then I realized, well, I actually have networks in all of those 12 places that I've lived, and have just been able to really kind of put some feet down here in the local area. And just even recently, I've started doing that a little bit more. So lots of growth, lots of success. I mean, team-wise, customer-wise, I mean, we had maybe 2 or 3 solopreneurs that we were working with in 2017, and we are now working with Amazon and Prudential. So again, lots of growth, lots of lessons learned, and very passionate about sharing that and how we got there in those ins and outs with other entrepreneurs. So I dropped my email in the chat if anybody wants to sidebar. Totally happy to do that at any time.
Awesome. Awesome. Janae.
I didn't get what her company does.
Yes, I skipped that part. Thank you. The most important part of the pitch, right? So we have built proprietary technology that allows us to build and manage 100% remote teams for companies across the nation. So we build 100% remote customer support or operational support teams. And we're doing that before COVID. As you can imagine, it's been a very good year for us when people all of a sudden realized they needed remote teams, but didn't know how to either hire them or operationalize them or motivate and encourage them to stay on and retain them. So those are all the things that we bring to the table through the technology that we've built and all of the systems that we've created to allow that as a service.
Thank you.
Awesome. Janae, what's happening?
Hi, everybody. Good to be connecting with all of those that have one start and those that are hopefuls. Senior runs, where are we? Well, a lot has happened. Like Erica, a lot of growth, a lot of lessons learned. We are a web mobile platform that connects companion care drivers with aging adults. And with that platform, they can easily locate a driver, schedule their request, and instantly make payment. And pretty simple, straightforward process for clients. We've had clients that have used our service as far away as Australia, which was pretty cool. They have loved ones that live here in the area. And so we were able to use that technology to help coordinate all of their loved one's care efforts from a distance. So as you can imagine, trying to get your loved one to a medical appointment from, a long several thousand miles, that's stressful enough with just knowing that your loved one needs you and you can't be there, but then to be able to have a service that allows you to kind of be hands and feet and eyes in your stead, then that makes it just that more able to deal with. So right now we are in the throes of a great growth spurt. And so we are, I was able to bring on 2 people in management roles, and we are hiring drivers, companion drivers frivolously. So just riding the wave and talking to different members of the healthcare community. So we do work with Riverside, and we're in the process of contracts with Virginia Oncology and talking about how we can help them, and all the different agencies in the area and all of the different families that are trying to care for those loved ones from a distance, or even if they live in the area, they're just busy and they've got, they're that sandwich generation. So this is a tool that is very much appreciated by the sandwich generation. And we are in the process now of raising some additional capital so that we can improve our technology to be able to handle the growth that we're experiencing. And I think right now we are up to probably about 20 companion care drivers. And our website is awesome. And so I encourage you to go check it out and learn more about us. You can do everything online. So if you have folks that have family members that live in the area, they can go right online, sign up, get their loved one enrolled, and let our companion care drivers do all the heavy lifting, and they can go and live their lives and know that they can do that and trust everyone. Thanks, Gavin, for putting that out in the chat. And I'm like Erica, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have, or help you overcome any type of obstacles that you may be facing right now.
Awesome. Thanks, Janae. Nate, let's share the world with Occasion Genius.
Awesome. Is there, but more than just share, is there a prompt?
In terms of, what do you mean?
Just to make sure I'm covering the right stuff. So just
Oh, no, man. Yeah, just what you, about you, what your company does, and yeah, your 30-second elevator pitch.
Yeah,
Floor is yours,
so
man.
Occasion Genius, we were part of Start Peninsula 4.0 and pitching a private event marketplace, letting people know what cool things are happening for corporate events. We pivoted a bit after that and started realizing telling people about events for that you don't need a group to go to was really more relevant to more people more of the time. So we started aggregating this information and we started selling it to Hilton, to Marriott, to Kayak. And then the pandemic hit. We raised 3 million actually. So we were on a roll, about to hit our first million of annually recurring revenue. Then the pandemic hit and all events globally were canceled. And we sold to travel companies. And the people we sold to, they got furloughed. So we were in breach of contract. It was like all three legs of the stool got taken out from under us. And then we had a lineup of an investment moving toward a 6 million Series A. And those investors were all in the hotel business. And so we lost our investment. We had nothing to sell. We had no event inventory, and all the people we were selling to, they had no resources. So that happened in April. And PPP brought some people back. I had to furlough everybody. Then I furloughed them again. It really heartbreaking kind of time for us. Perfect storm, right? And what we got some modified contracts back in around August of last year, and we're steadily adding some more. We just got Trivago to join. We just got Hilton to do a new expansion. So we're slowly climbing back. And I think what's driven me through this period, well, first of all, feeling really lucky that, you know, like health has been great. And, you know, it's as bad as it's been for our line of business, you know, could have always been worse. And I think just I really feel passionately about what we do. I believe that shared experiences makes life better. I believe that, you know, there's no easy way to know what's going on. We have to go to lots of different places. We flip through the stuff we don't care about, hoping to find the things we do. And so I've always seen this as a great way to impact the greatest number of people in the shortest period of time in an important way that's important to me. So that's driven me to continue on. And as things start to pick up, my hope is that this is now a perfect storm for us in a positive direction, where huge influx and pent up interest in events and getting out, and suddenly we're seeing a lot of demand for post-pandemic resources, helping people figure out what's going on and helping brands capitalize in this incoming wave of travel. So definitely has put some hair on my chest. I feel like it's a roller coaster for sure. And I think just surrounding myself with people who also feel passionately and who are smart and who have helped me manage this has been a really great boon.
Man, that's wild. So everyone, as you're hearing all this stuff, thinking about questions, you know, once we have a couple more that we'll introduce, and if anyone else wants to pitch after that, they can, but get those questions ready. And in the meantime, we'll head over to Hot Rock and we'll listen to Celeste and Roger.
Okay, go Roger.
Hey, you guys. Yeah, I guess, well, so we won last year, and since then we've had our tool manufactured. We've had a sample run of our product.
Do you want to tell them what we do?
I guess we should tell you what we do. We make a flooring underlayment for heated tile, and it's insulating and expedites the process of being able to incorporate the wire into the tiled system.
Sound insulating.
Yeah, it's sound insulating, thermal insulating. Like I said, we have a sample production run. We now have our 4th install that's been completed. I've been on the job on each of the installs. It works amazing. We still have a couple of details to work out with the production aspect. We're going to launch in August at our first trade show up in Rhode Island. Other than that, yeah, we've just been super busy, man. So
Awesome. Peter, you're also a winner from last year. What do you got? What's happening with you?
I'm still working. The prototype I showed you guys, which was this one, that's 4th generation. I'm working on 5th generation now, ironing out a few bugs. But for people that don't know, came to me when I was we were going skiing, and we always have to pack coffee coffee and filters because they don't have Keurigs where we go. So I came up with this, where you can put a Keurig pot inside there, fill it with water, and close the lid and put it on a mug in your microwave, and you get a cup of coffee in 3 minutes. So I have a few issues still on the sealing. It's not sealing as well as it should, and hopefully the Generation 5 will take care of that. Then I'm going to make about a 30-second video so I can start getting a lot of feedback. Feedback I have gotten from it has been very positive, mostly friends though. So the competition was really very helpful for me. That just the fact that I got neutral feedback from people who didn't, have to make me feel good. So that was fantastic, as well as the 6 months membership, where I had a mentor and everything like that. So it's
Awesome.
going well. It's taking longer than I would hope, but I'm hoping this next generation comes close to nailing it.
Cool. We also have 2 folks from that are semi-finalists for 2021. Chris Rumper, go ahead and tell us what you got going on with Pocket Properties.
Yeah, so Pocket Properties is I'm gonna give the spiel first.
There's more pressure on you.
Oh yeah, we're raising right now. So so Pocket Properties is a mobile focused platform that allows people to buy, sell, and trade fractional shares of real estate for less than $10. So our goal is to essentially democratize real estate investing, just like Robinhood democratized stock trading. Now our journey since Start Peninsula has been, it's been good. It's been all traction, which is nice. Main thing is we still looking to get capital in, but it's just because with what we're doing, we're really building and shaping the industry of what fractional real estate and what securitized real estate is going to look like. There's a lot of moving parts to the business. So that's been keeping us busy in the meantime. So really just figuring out, who's going to be in charge, because typically, executive teams are, maybe 5 deep. I'm looking at the potential where our executive team is probably going to be about 9 people. Right now we've got about 6. So, but main thing, we've just been getting everybody in place and getting strong foundations built, in our marketing end, getting a strong financial background, getting a strong real estate acquisitions foundation, and getting a strong network there. But then also, next step is going to be legal. And of course, our product is, we're almost 50% done with the app at this point. So, but that's just kind of a quick little spiel about how it's been going. We have a WeFunder campaign if anybody wants to contribute to that. I'd be remiss if I didn't give us the shameless plug there as well too.
Awesome. Taylor, you want to tell us what you got going on?
Sure. Hello, everybody. I'm Taylor Robertson, founder of Spellcross, but I go to College of William & Mary. I'm a rising junior there right now, so still a full-time student. I'm even taking 3 summer classes right now. But basically, we've got an app idea that's in that earlier stage, which is nice to see everyone else here who, multiple years along and are, either have gotten many employees under their belt, or someone like the person right before me. Sorry, I didn't catch your name, but 50% of your app done. Sadly, I'm still in the stage where I'm looking at, how should I get this built? How do I get enough funding for it? Which is a nice place to be. And so if anyone has any sort of, lines there, I'd love to chat with you after. But basically, the app is an augmented reality dueling app. So it allows you and another person with a phone to stand across from each other in a room and cast spells at each other. So we've got some mock-ups for different kind of spells effects, but I still want to expand my team of founders, people that I'm working with, hopefully other students at the college, but I've got to make more outreach to see who else wants to come aboard the project. That's where I'm at, but it's lovely to be here and to get to speak with the rest of you all and see what else is in the area developing. Thanks.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Taylor. I mean, one thing that for the folks that haven't been involved this year or last year, one of the things that's how we've morphed Start Peninsula was before, as you guys know, you pitched on Friday, and then on Sunday night you pitched again, and then winners were formed or awarded. Well, now we have 4 micro pitch competitions. We have 2 in the late winter, early spring. So March, April, and then or April, May, and then the top 3, they all advance, and then we have 2 more micro pitch competitions, one in September and one in October, and then in November we have the top 3 from each of the 4 micro pitch competitions. So it's almost like a playoff, and then we'll have the top 12 pitch in November. So the thing that's really different is, so you have Chris, who's already pitched in advance, and Taylor, who's already pitched in advance. And so now, rather than working on something over the course of a whole weekend, they are working on things over the course of several months so that they can come back and say, hey, this is what I've done over this time frame to show what traction and whatnot that they've achieved to increase their chances of winning. So a little different format that we're doing this year, and we did last year as a result of COVID, but so things are different now, but I think in a good way. It keeps people pushing, because I think, like a couple of you had said, you woke up on Monday morning and you're like, man, I don't even know what to do. My mentor for the weekend is no longer available. Well, now you have a longer period of time that you can work on this and try to iron out those things. So then in November, when you do win, that you can wake up that following Monday and kind of have an idea where you need to go. So all positive changes. I'm curious, what questions do you all have for one another?
Hey, Tim, can I jump in and say something?
Yeah.
So I've been doing, ever since we got our first sample run, I've been doing installs. Like, it's been absolutely crazy for 6 weeks or 2 months. I think today was the first day that I actually sat down on the computer and did a bunch of work, and I was like, what do I got to do? And so what I want to say to the younger people is just keep doing something. Like, sometimes you can do wrong things, and sometimes by doing the wrong things, you learn that they're wrong, but it kind of steers you to do the right things. So just keep doing something. Just keep working at it. You'll get somewhere.
Yeah, totally agree there. And I'll tell you, I'll even take that one step further, in the sense of it's really easy to do the easy things for your business, and you put off doing the things that are really difficult. And then a few months go by, and then you realize that your business didn't necessarily go as far as you wanted it to. And that's because you have to attack those difficult things. And the sooner you do that, the more progress that you're going to make.
Honestly, to piggyback off of that, what you're saying there, Tim, it's funny that you mentioned that, because one thing that I feel like has been integral with our success, and Stan's not here, but it's me and Stan, we work well off of the things that we don't that each other don't necessarily like to do. So if there's a difficult, having a strong co-founder is super, super important. And having someone who kind of enjoys the tasks that you might not necessarily enjoy, and you enjoy the tasks that they don't necessarily enjoy. And if you don't have those people, there's always somebody out there who you can source. But that's finding those people is a way of kind of accelerating those tasks, and some of those tasks that you might not necessarily want to do. But
awesome. Stephanie, do you have a question?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Good to see you again, Tim.
Yeah, nice to see you.
Yes, I was a presenter in 2019, and I presented an idea about bulletproof items for your home. I had to revamp some of my ideas but also I came up with another invention. I'm having a problem with getting information on funding and how to get it built and manufactured. And I'm stuck. I have the idea. I have it drawn out. My idea is there, but I'm just stuck right here like a dead end. So this was my opportunity to come on
Lucky
tonight.
for you. Yeah, lucky for you. We have people that have raised money, and we have people that have gone through the prototyping process with their products. So I have nothing more I can really that I should say. I'll open it up to
Okay,
the others.
thank you.
I might be able to offer maybe some advice. Might be good, Taylor, if you and I spoke offline. So since I have a long history in game development, built tons of augmented reality, virtual reality, everything under the sun in that world I've built. So I might be able to give you a few pointers. And I guess I was just wondering, are you able to do any of this technically yourself, or are you just thinking of the ideas, hoping that there'll be some technical assistance down the road?
Are you speaking to me, Jeremy?
I'm sorry. I sort of jumped over.
Okay.
I'll answer you. And
that
I'll let
was
you
my
get back.
question as well.
Say,
Jeremy, so I was just going to say I currently do not have many coding skills at all. I've got some basics in Python and R programming, but nothing to do with mobile apps. So really looking at, I can learn things, willing to take on some extra skills, but currently it's very much in the idea stage, and this is what it would look like stage. And do I need to take on more founders, or do I need to get funding and, pay someone else to help, fund the construction of it? And I'm not quite exactly sure what avenue to go down. And
okay.
I'll let you also answer Stephanie's question on
that. I could switch. I think, and what it got me thinking was thinking about Taylor, and I've tried to do a lot of things to help folks that are in his position. And I think Stephanie's position is a little different. I think there's a fundamental difference when you're doing something that's totally software based, and then when you're doing something where there's like a physical, basically like kinetic side to that. And there are certain costs that you cannot pay for necessarily with your time or your education directly. So probably the folks over at Hot Rock might be able to help you, I think, understand how to build a prototype. And then maybe where'd Nate go? Anyway, he might be able to help you a little bit more on the fundraising side. But if anybody's building software, that's where I could help you. And my recommendation, a lot of people don't like this. This is kind of how it was apparent to me very early in my career. I thought, I want to make a game. And then I thought, I need to find a programmer. And then I thought, oh, well, if somebody can write code, they probably have their own ideas. I better learn how to code. So my advice would probably be to just dive in on that. And I could give you a ton of pointers on that side of things. As far as like on the physical side and on the raising money side, I think there might be some technical skills that you can put together to get some type of prototype together, which there are probably other people that are better to speak on that. It's one of those things where I guess you're going to want to do it as efficiently as possible just to get the point across, just to get the first leg of where, you're either going to sell it to an investor or you're going to actually install it. And you have to measure, what's the delta between those two things. On the software side, I more recommend that people like dive in and build, because there's the risk is your time, really, and you should be willing to invest all your time, in your software. So.
Thank you. That makes sense. And I would love to talk with you one-on-one later, because I definitely am looking at, what platform would I build it in, because I'm going to acquire expertise in a certain coding language. Should I be building it like in iOS? Should I be building it in something that's going to be able to transfer to both, Android and iOS? And what sort of AR kit should I be using? Because I'm not trying to generate 3D objects so much as I am apply effects to a recognized, human value face.
For sure. Yeah. I can, like, in another forum, I can go into detail on all that.
Cool. Roger, do you have
Yeah, I'm glad I had a second to think about that. So definitely, I'm curious to know what your invention is. Hang on one second. But also, I kind of know how you feel because I came up with the idea of hot rock. I mean, maybe probably like 7 to 9 years ago, but had no clue how to get it to reality, how to deal with the business aspects of it. And so it was just this idea that I knew would work, but I just had no clue, right? Until I met Celeste, and Celeste had the business experience. And so luckily, like there was another guy, Chris, you were talking about, you had a business partner. A lot of people are here solo. I couldn't imagine doing this solo. There's so much work to be done. So I'm not suggesting that you, I mean, maybe I am suggesting you take on a partner or you consider that, but you really have to develop it. You know, we went to a patent lawyer one time and he said, there's a lot of people that come here and they want to write a patent, but they don't have any prototype. And we're in his office with a prototype. And he said, this is what matters. So if you're passionate about it, keep working on it. If you have an idea, if you don't want to share it, that's fine. If you need help developing it, then you got to find that professional that knows how to develop it, whether it's a friend, a network. Just keep looking, keep sharing your idea and keep going. And sometimes, you know, if you know you're a thinker, you're thinking about different ideas. Sometimes that one idea that you can't quite make work, then you stumble on this other opportunity and you're like, oh my gosh, this is it. And then it kind of, so that's why back to the whole keep going, keep working, do the things just like Tim said that you don't want to do, but also if you can't like do it, you know, it's going to get expensive real quick to pay somebody else. So just keep trying to figure out where, you know, how do you find that way? You know?
And logistically for prototyping, what we did is we got some existing products and tried to modify them to see if it would work.
Okay.
So we took
That's an aha moment.
Yeah. We took some stuff that we had and okay, let's fix this. Okay, that didn't work. Okay, let's see if we can get another product that's available and modify that. And that's really how we developed our prototype.
Yeah.
Okay.
Came on to the actual material of construction.
Our real prototype was like our fourth version of me trying something. Like I've been a tile setter for a long time, and so I was actually trying different things on the job. Like I won't tell the contractors that I was doing that, but I was trying some different things to see if you know, in theory, would it work? But also like I did it on an application to find out if it would like literally work. And then, you know, we would kind of change this or kind of change that. And I think by the time that we really had our production piece, it was probably like version, I would say 8 to 10.
Yeah.
You know,
at least.
And it's amazing how close we were and yet how far away. So, you know, our mold was super expensive. Like it's just amazing work of art, but like literally it was at least like version 10. And we went through all those steps. I mean, we've been working on this for, you know, we're getting close to year 4 now, if any of that like matters. Like it takes a lot of work.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Did you get a patent before?
We filed the provisional a year before, and we filed the non-provisional last June. So we have it pending. We're waiting to hear back from the patent office.
One thing that's really neat about that, and probably Peter could chime in on this too, that's really neat about the process is, you know, you want to file your patent early, right? Because you're like, oh, I don't want anybody to get on this idea. But what's really interesting is even after 3 years and right before we filed our patent, we were still learning about, you know, how to design our product and how to write the patent to make it even better. And even after we filed our initial, our second non-provisional patent application, we've still learned a couple of things. And so now we're actually going to have to we're very likely going to have to file another patent application. But it's just because we've learned these things about, you know, we weren't in manufacturing. So how could we know about the ins and outs of manufacturing to include that in the patent application until we got that close?
Okay.
You know,
Wow.
Interesting.
so don't be in a
Yeah,
rush.
it is.
Don't like, yeah, don't be like, oh, I gotta find, because the whole thing, you know, if anything, as an entrepreneur, what you're doing is you're constantly failing and you're constantly learning. And all of that, as long as you stick with it, it helps, you know, define your product, your intellectual property, and it makes you more of a professional out there in the world because you put in the legwork. Like that's just hands down what the whole process is about.
Yeah, I mean, Erica, you
Thank
mentioned
you.
failing forward. I mean, what's your take on failing forward? And you've raised money as well. What's your advice to people that are looking to raise money?
Yeah, emotional intelligence is not something that's discussed, I think, very openly in entrepreneur circles. But I mean, that and relationship building are the two things that have helped us the most. I mean, you can learn any business structure, you can learn business philosophy, you can Google anything, right? But that emotional intelligence to know when to stop pressing on a lane if it's not working and have no ego or pride in that and just say, okay, we're turning direction. We tried that. It was great. We learned a lot and now we're moving along. That gets harder when it's just two founders. It's harder to communicate that change to 40 people, to 50 people, to 400 people. So there's a lot of, we've learned the ins and outs of change management, especially as a remote team. But again, that's, hey, we failed at something, we're going to put a different process in place. Thank you all for bringing it to our attention. Or, you know, just that emotional intelligence just comes up over and over and over again. And the relationship building. I mean, we, again, as my co-founder is also a military spouse, so we don't have friends and family. We did not do a friends and family round. And most people say, oh, you'll never get anywhere in VC or, you know, fundraising if you don't follow the procedures. We are also both female founders with 6 kids between us, military families. We're not going to follow procedures because we don't fit with those procedures. We're originally built to serve, right? There's a lot of ways to do things, and just being aware of what you're doing and how you communicate that along the way. So we did our angel round with the Hawaii Angel Group. I pitched to 20 angel investors from a screen top. My co-founder was in person, and she would just move the computer so that I could see who was talking. Where there's a will, there's a way. And then we closed our Series Seed round last January at 1.5 million. And same thing, we did that whole process remotely. People are like, oh, it takes 18 months. You'll have to travel. You have to leave your family behind. And we didn't have to do that, right? We figured it out. We built relationships and talked to the people that believed in what we were doing, right? I think that's one of the biggest things when it comes to money is money comes with strings. Don't ever take money from somebody just to take a check. It will burn you every single time. And thankfully, I saw that through other startups I worked with. I knew that lesson before I got to my own startup, that you really want to be in business and taking money from the people who are 100% behind you and supporting you through the good, the bad, and the ugly. So emotional intelligence, networking, and just trusting that gut when you're failing forward that, you know, there's still opportunity ahead.
I wanted to just sort of piggyback off of some of the things that were said. And one of the questions I frequently ask myself, if I find myself pausing at any given moment, I do ask the question, how can I add value now? And you can usually answer that question. And so when you feel like you're coming to a pause moment and you know you have to keep digging, ask that question and you'll usually have an answer. And then you'll usually do something which will spur another sequence of, you know, digging. So I think that's important.
Awesome. Anyone else have a question before I ask a selfish one?
Yeah, Jeremy, what are your thoughts about Fastly going down?
I don't know Fastly.
Okay, it's a CDN that.
Oh, actually, I did. Yeah, I did see a headline about that. So, you know, on the CDN side of streaming, I don't deal with that really at all because the streaming that we do is real time, right off the machine. We can go peer to peer. We don't use content delivery, you know, networks, even if we were doing, you know, movies or anything like that. I didn't read much about it. I only saw the headline about it going down, and it was sort of that's interesting. And I don't, like I said, I don't know much about it, and we don't use that same type of streaming technology with what we do.
So you're just peer-to-peer on a LAN then?
Well, it could be peer-to-peer. It could be data center to, client. It can be one to many, many to many. The real idea of the tool is that we don't dictate, what you're going to be doing with it. We're trying to give you the broadest possible set of tools to build any type of streaming application, whether it be something like this, whether you want to build something like Google Stadia, whether you want to build even something like a YouTube or a Spotify or something like that. So I think the idea is, as one of my friends described it, as a stem cell streaming technology. So that,
Okay.
it's not really dictating that. I think, the content delivery networks are predominantly there because at the time, there were limitations on bandwidth and so on and so forth. And so all those networks were there to try to maximize the bandwidth and getting cost savings and so on and so forth. There's all sorts of things that those do in order to process the video, when you're watching like Netflix or, something like that. So it's a little bit different than what we're doing, which is, I think, based probably on newer technology it's happening in real time instead of pre-processed. So
Yeah, I would love to chat further about that at some point, if you would be going.
Cool. So one thing is we have people that are on the fence hear about pitching in 2021. What advice to the alumni folks do you give to people that are on the fence that should I pitch or should I not pitch?
I would say you have absolutely nothing to lose, for one thing, and it really does hone your pitch skills. So I'd say go for it. If you have anything to pitch it.
I second that.
Yeah,
I would pitch. You're not going to get tuned into a better network than the one here in terms of people that are doing exactly what you want to be doing at lots of different stages with lots of different specialties, access to funding, this Crimdale Business Network. I mean, just regardless of whether you win or not, you get your face out there in front of these people who can help you.
I will speak to all the introverts out there. I've had to invest in life coaching to get myself out there. I mean, I'm a business founder, I'm a COO, I'm over it now, but those first days of oh crap, I'm a business owner, I'm gonna have to speak, right? I'm gonna have to speak, I'm gonna have to lead keynotes someday, right? And I've gotten there, but it took some personal development. I invested in a life coach to help me just work up to the comfort levels. I'm very operational and tactical, so there's certain things I do before I speak or before I pitch. And I had the opportunity. So actually before I won Start, I won another pitch competition in August. So it was kind of my second go. So I had that one confident notch in my belt, right? Okay, I've done this once. I'm going to get another 10K, going to roll in 20K for the year. We're going to hit, the new year hard. And it sounds strange, but her recommendation was think of the worst case scenario. Just get it out of your head and tell me, speak it out loud to somebody okay, well, worst case scenario going into this is I bomb, I fall, I forget everything, the judges hate me, right? Just say all of those things that are going through your brain, because once they're out, you're okay, yeah, probably none of that is ever going to happen. And then you get up there and you kill it. So just do it. No matter how fearful you are, nothing's going to happen to you. Other than you might possibly win or you might get a great network, right? All positives for putting yourself out there. So no matter what if you're an introvert, just work through it, do it anyway. You will be super proud of yourself.
Tim and I don't know if Tim's laughing for the same reason that I'm laughing, but I pretty much had the worst case scenario happen when I was doing my pitch on Sunday. And I think my Start Peninsula pitch was the third really public speaking event that I had done. I've become quite comfortable with it over the years, but I got up and I'm pitching and maybe I'm 30 seconds or a minute into it. And all of a sudden I freeze like a deer in headlights up on stage there. And I thought, oh, do I run, jump off the stage and just run out? Or what do I do? And somehow I regained my composure and sort of pivoted to a different version of the pitch that I knew, because I basically had switched the format of the pitch and just lost it up there. And, continued on anyway, and it was no big deal, right? But yeah, that's the worst thing that could happen. And if you run into a deer in headlights moment, just pause for a second and be you know what? Again, what can I say that would be valuable right now? And how do I just get back on the tracks? That's kind of what I did when that happened. So
mean, I know one thing that I tell everybody is like the only person that loses that participates in Start is the ones that quit. And you can't help those folks. So get out there, put yourself in that uncomfortable zone and get after it.
Can I say one thing, Tim?
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to say, when I was a presenter, I didn't win, but I walked away with some valuable information to have my visuals ready and to have my figures, my numbers together. That is one thing, because that was my first time ever pitching. So that is what I take away. So I say, do it.
I love it. There's one type of person who should never pitch, and that would be people who aren't willing to listen to the feedback. I have been to pitch competitions where their pitch was okay, but their reaction to the advice was more embarrassing than if they had just bombed their pitch to start with. Like, you have to be ready to take whatever's coming at you, and just, again, that emotional awareness or intelligence, right? Like, okay, I'm going to take away the things that I do find helpful, and those that weren't, that person can just carry on with their own thoughts about me and my company, and I don't ever have to interact with them again. But it's so important, because when you're pitching or getting feedback, even as you advance and you have mentors or advisors, there's sometimes just a time and a place, and you've got to be ready to take all of that. You've asked for it, so you got to be ready to take it and then sort through it and use what you need.
I want to say, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. I was just going to say it helped us a lot to practice, and video record and watch the videos over and over again and see some of the quirks that I was having on camera that I had to work through, like my legs shaking and
He was the worst, man. We probably practice our pitch, I'd say at least 100 times, you know, and like literally we didn't watch every recording, we watched a lot, but like we practiced so much, and it helps.
Yeah.
And if you really are in an entrepreneur and you want to like be successful, you're going to be talking to people that you don't know, and they're going to give you it. Everybody's going to give you advice, right? But what I will have to say is, like, Tim runs a great program. He gives good advice. Follow the advice. We followed the advice. It worked really well. And the other thing is, not all competitions are created equal. This one will be run very fairly and very well.
Professionally,
right?
very professional.
And we did another one and not so much. So, man, this is the best group of people you're going to be around to try and just, again, just like Tim opened up, it's to validate whether you have a real business idea or not. So don't you want the truth? You know?
And Stephanie, you were looking for places to make your product. There's a company called Spark Product Development. I just put their email or their web address in the comments. They may be able to help you. I still haven't heard what you're doing, so that kind of is a little dependent. But also on the pitch competition, I actually changed the focus of what my main customer base will be based on feedback from the pitch competition, so they're very worthwhile.
On that note, you could also potentially 3D print like your parts that you need, depending on what you're trying to make.
Thank you.
I'm curious, from a feedback standpoint, what does the region need to do better to support the entrepreneurs?
Well, I had my own thoughts on that, and some I don't know if anybody knows this, but a few years after Start Peninsula and I did some other startup competitions, I created something called Pixelfest, which we ran in 2016, 17, and 18. It was a fairly successful event that we had at Slover Library for the first 2 years, and then we did it at the Half Moon Cruise and Celebration Center in downtown Norfolk. And the idea behind Pixelfest was one that I had come up with even earlier, doing articles for Gama Sutra. So I would take a popular game and then I would show you how the code behind that game would work. And so the idea is, like, we're already emotionally attached to this experience. In my case, I've always used video games as the emotional motivation. And then here is all the technical stuff that goes behind it. And the reason that I did that, and what I still probably think of the region, is that just we need better technicals. The teams that are competing out of, you know, some other places are technically extremely excellent. And when you look at an accelerator like Y Combinator, a lot of the focus is on technical excellence. It's on technical founders. And so my particular angle on it is that I don't find enough technical people. I run into too many people that are either afraid to dive into the technology. You know, a lot of people are still, you know, they're just not willing to go into the water. I have a couple of people that I've worked with trying to push them to become that technical founder themselves, and they're unwilling or unable to do it. My particular viewpoint on it is that it's more unwilling than unable. I was not I don't feel that I had the skill set like in a God-given way to do what I do. But when I had that mindset of, I want to make a game, I need to find a programmer. Oh, if the programmer has their own ideas, wouldn't they just make their own stuff? I better learn how to do this. And so there was a switch that just flipped it. And even though, quite frankly, like I said, my parents told me not to pursue the path that I chose to pursue, because they said, you just don't have the, you know, basically they wanted to tell me that I didn't have the God-given capability to do this stuff. It just wasn't what looked like I was gifted with at a young age. But I wanted it. And so I wanted it, and I accepted the responsibility of that desire, and didn't offload it to somebody else. And I think it's paid off 1,000-fold in all the things that I've gotten to build. But it's really, I feel it's a choice to choose that. And yes, it's extremely hard. I spent hours and hours and hours banging my head at books and keyboards and everything. But at this point, I can build anything that I want. And that's, I mean, I couldn't pay somebody enough. And I find too many other cases where people go out and they'll spend the money to build something. And then it's like giving the car, you know, you pay $50,000 to have a software built, because I'm talking more about software than anything else. And then the person who built it hands the software to you, and it's like giving the keys to a toddler. They don't know what to do with it. And I still, I'm not doing Pixelfest anymore just because I think I want to focus. That's one mistake I think I made from Start Peninsula on, but I still think that technical excellence in the area is lacking. And until we're super technically excellent, we're not going to see, you know, necessarily the really big things being built, the things that serve the whole world. And, you know, there's just something to be said for that. I still think that.
What else, guys?
I want to jump in. I want to say involvement. So from our aspect, like, which is really the only way we can see it, is that we make a product that can be be installed right here in the local community. And where's the involvement from the city, or let's say the 7 cities? Oh man, we got this new group, they have this product. How do we, you know, they take tax money in from all these builders, so they've got a registry of all, you know, licensed builders. They got to know people. So where's the involvement? That's what I would say, is like, you know, how can we help? We feel like, I guess it gets a little frustrating because we feel like we know we're legit. We feel like Start Peninsula's kind of validated us. I mean, we show up on the meetings, we followed through, we keep in touch with you, Tim. So like, we're something beyond just the money that's the prize money from the city, you know? Like, that just shows to me how far they're willing to go to support something. It's just, oh, it's a face value. Whereas, you know, community and city and all that, it goes deeper. It's a long game, right? Not just a short game.
Yeah.
So where's the involvement?
Surprised everyone didn't jump up and say access to funding, access to capital, all right.
Well,
away.
that
Well,
too.
Yeah, that's why I smiled.
We don't want to sound like a
there.
stuck record, right? Because we've said that all along, is access to funding, right? We just, yeah, but that too, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say things are definitely getting much, much better. I mean, so Florence, who's on, she's the director of economic development for Newport News. Florence is nice enough to ask, and Sam, I was able to brief the EDA to Newport News about Start Peninsula, and like the response from the Economic Development Authority members was awesome. So the more that we're able to do that and really show the community what we're doing, the better it's going to be for everyone in the long run. And you know, we all have to do our part in sharing as well, and to get more and more people involved to support everything too. But we're definitely getting there. It's I'm really, really optimistic.
I'll jump in. By the way, Jeremy, really awesome advice that I haven't heard enough people say, which is go learn how to do it and take the time to figure it out. So I think that's a hard truth that and I loved how you framed it. In terms of ecosystem, I'm in Richmond, Virginia, and I got a lot of traction out of a program called Startup Virginia that has a mentor network. They call it Union, and basically they reach out to people, anybody who's been successful at anything really, and they say, hey, if you have advice, wisdom, something to share, sign up here, and as somebody who runs a startup will know that you're willing to share that. And it's essentially, I mean, it's help pay it forward. These people, you know, didn't get by without help. They can't go help that person, so they want to help the next person. I think in Virginia in general, there's a ton of that. So my strategy was meet as many of these people as possible that it made sense to meet with. And rather than ask for investment, I asked for advice. And the great expression that's really worked for me, which is if you want money, ask for advice. If you want advice, ask for money. And when they started to say, hey, this is an amazing idea, this is so cool, then I would say, hey, you know, we are raising money. I put you in this mentor box. I should keep you there, right? And I found that was really helpful, as like, that was my magic phrase, because if they weren't interested in investing and they said, oh, I only invest in healthcare, or no, I'm not an accredited investor, whatever, I'd be like, okay. I mean, they were agreeing with me. There was no sense of rejection, right? I was almost like saying, I shouldn't consider that, you know, you and that, I should keep you in this box. Or they would say, no, I didn't say that. I'd be very interested. And now suddenly I'm like, oh, why do you say that? Now they're telling me why they're interested in investing, as opposed to me trying to pitch to them, you know, to take an action. And because this network, they weren't doing it to invest, they were doing it to help. I think I was able to connect with a lot of people who were not as saturated with deal flow. So that kind of network, that kind of list where, and to really expand it, as many professional people as possible in that area, Tim, would, I think, be something to replicate maybe.
Yeah, awesome. And for everyone that doesn't know, I mean, this isn't necessarily a plug for Startwheel, but take advantage of Startwheel, startwheel.org. You know, we have a resource directory where you can find mentors, businesses, and whatnot.
Perfect.
And whatever we can do, I mean, it's there to help build the community. And if there's anything that we should be doing that we're not doing, let us know that too. So some insider stuff that's getting ready to come out. We're going to be listing startups will be able to list their job openings so that they can help build out their team. We're going to, so like, you guys are awesome. So we're going to build out a speaker forum, whereas like right now there's a big demand for people that have been there, that have done that. And so we'll list everyone that has this expertise that, hey, we need someone to talk about this topic or that topic. We're putting together a list of people that we can leverage the subject matter experts, so that helps build your credibility, gets your name out there, and it just continues to grow and build the community. So we have things that are happening. We're always looking for people for the Fervent 4 show. We've had several folks on the Fervent 4 show that are on this Zoom call right now. But I mean, we're getting there. Leverage, just put yourself out there. Nate, you're awesome, man. Every time that I've ever reached out, you're always the first one to raise your hand. So I totally agree. Pay it forward is huge.
Tim, I just want to comment that the Start Real newsletter, I comb through that every time it comes out. It's always chock full of information. So I appreciate that.
Thanks. It's again, it's just the big thing that I really want to make sure that everyone was aware of is that everybody is included. Everybody. We don't leave anybody out. And if anyone feels like they're excluded, it's only because we don't know about it. So tell us, and we'll make sure that you're included. What other questions do you all have for one another?
And when he says everybody's included, my mom's watching this right now. So she really means it. She's like our biggest fan. So she's on here watching tonight too. He really means it, everyone.
Anyone have anything for each other?
Yeah, this is Pete Hansen. I'm the fuzzy ear, the little rabbit there. Let me start up saying I apologize for being distracting earlier. I'm cleaning my rabbit cages while listening. Should have turned my camera off. I was just curious for the pitch. How ready are you supposed to be for that? I mean, talk about looking for investors or just purely feeling the waters out? Everybody with different businesses. I mean, if you invented a product, you bring the product. Do you need a business plan and funding and everything laid out, or is this something you can jump into just to learn and not look totally foolish?
I mean, yeah, I would say it's a matter of how bad do you want it, for one. But two, I mean, there's a lot of people that didn't know anything and they attend Pitch Perfect. And if you attend Pitch Perfect, we teach you everything that you need to know. There is no secrets. We want to set everybody up for success. So from that standpoint, that's what I would suggest. The more prepared you are, the better off you're
kind of think of it like
Yeah.
a 5K. Anybody can do it, right? You know, it's like kids can do it. You know, I mean, you probably wouldn't want kids up here pitching, but you get what I'm saying. Anybody can do it. Watch it, try, see what happens.
Yeah, you're not going to get any worse at pitching by pitching, like experienced like investors and founders and stuff like that. You're only going to get better, and they're only going to give you better feedback, or give you feedback that's going to get you better.
In Jeremy's year, we had Busky Cider pitch, and Will didn't know anything about cider. He just knew that it was going to be an industry that was going to be hot. So in terms of having anything prepared, he didn't have a clue. And so now he's the second largest cidery in the state, only behind Bold Rock. So, it's all over the place.
I was going to say, I wanted to piggyback off the Pitch Perfect. That's really where my interest to do this came from. People had said, oh, you should try doing a startup competition. And I went to Pitch Perfect, and there was one piece of technical advice, which is that your 1 minute pitch should be 250 words. And I don't know if anybody mentioned that here, but knowing that was like half the battle, I feel like, so that you could write on a piece of paper 250 words, and then, you could really get your narrative in there. And also that was a confidence builder. If you're feeling nervous about pitching, knowing I can do 250 words, practicing it until it's memorized. And it's not a whole lot to memorize if you care about what you're pitching. And so kind of knowing those things, and then seeing, everybody else is a little nervous also. And, there's not anybody that's going into a startup competition is not a seasoned presenter at that point. If they were a seasoned presenter, they would be doing something else other than a startup competition, probably, maybe depending on where you are and what startup competition. But for the most part, you're dealing with people that they have an inkling of an idea that they feel that they can add value to the world. And so they feel strongly enough about that to take one step forward. And then, it's just, you got to keep taking those steps forward and just try to get some understanding of how do I succeed at each little step. So I'd say Tim nailed it with Pitch Perfect. And then the one thing I learned at Pitch Perfect was the 250 word thing. And I just feel like, from there, it was just, oh, that's how you do that. That's how you do that. That's how you do that. And before you know it, you're rolling.
Yeah, I don't know how many times I used Janae as an example. I mean, it's just Janae, she showed up and Janae and Jack, we would do every single pitch perfect, and we would chop that pitch apart. We'd have big pieces of paper on a conference room table, and we would just start moving words around because, to Jeremy's point, there's only so many words you can fit in however long the pitch is. Now we're at 3 minutes. So when Jeremy had it way harder when it was only 1 minute. But I mean, I use Janae's example all the time, and she stuck with it. Again, she didn't quit. She kept after it, and now, I mean, she's doing great things. So I mean, that's a perfect example.
Good exercise. That's what I'll call Start. Start was a great exercise. So don't even think about if I'm going to win, if I'm not going to win. It's just great exercise, and it really is a good test to see how much you want to be an entrepreneur, because we all know that the word entrepreneur is associated with celebrity, and nobody knows the grind that's behind it. So we say we want it, but then the grind comes in, and then that's when you really find out just what you're made of. So
Yeah, it's definitely about how bad you want it. Jack.
Hey, Tim.
Yeah.
A common thread in some of the presentations tonight was the fact that they pivoted from one market to another as they develop. And I think that's very common in successful companies. They find out that what they started to do isn't what the market wants. I wonder if some of the people could comment on what they think people might do to accelerate the process of defining that pivoting process.
Love it. Who wants to go?
I could jump onto that. So I think that and sort of jumping back to what Janae was saying and what Tim was saying, prior, there is definitely, there's two factors there. There is a factor of the market and what's reality. You have the ball, and you're like, the ball is this idea. And you're like, I'm going to throw the ball at reality and see how it bounces back to me. And that's going to tell you something about if there is a market for what you're doing, et cetera. There's a reality factor to that. When the ball comes back to you after you've thrown it out and bounced it off the proverbial wall, then you're going to have to ask yourself, how bad do you want your idea or the reality that currently exists? And then you're going to have to wrestle with whether or not you're going to build an entire reality that just nobody else is thinking about yet, or whether or not you're going to sort of accept the current reality and then run a business inside of that. And I think, like every founder that's come along, there's probably been some balancing act between those two extremes. And some people were probably just like, no, I'm refused to accept the current state of the market. I refuse to do anything with this. And they maybe have some big vision that they're going to try to pull off, and they're going to change it completely. And then there are probably other folks that are like, well, that's not really what I want. I do just kind of want to run a business, and I want to be able to sleep at night. And they might be able to accept, some sort of position within the current reality and set themselves up to do that. But I think what's the reality of the situation, and how bad do you want the thing that you feel like is inside your brain and your heart, and how are you going to bring that, to fruition?
Yeah. I know. I think that certainly that, gosh, customer feedback is so huge, and so many people are afraid to hear what their customers are going to say because it might be something they don't want to hear. And customers and sales cures all, and those who listen to their customers, they'll know when to pivot. I would love to hear what Nate's. He looks like he stepped away, but I would love to hear what Nate had to say about pivoting, because there he is. Because you've done some major pivots and you survived a lot.
Yeah. I think the thing that's driven me, other than stubbornness, which we'll just put aside, I think is a belief of we're just one pivot away from success. It might take 20 pivots to get to that one pivot away from massive success. But I've just always believed that consistency over perfection, by continuing to go down the path and figure it out, we'll figure it out. And that led me to sell a business that I had pitched and start this one. I sold off the contracts, the codes, and the concepts of the original concept because I pivoted into something that I thought was even better and more exciting. So I think with that mentality, there's no choice but to just keep going. And granted, I think there's the other side of the argument, which is sometimes you got to recognize when life is telling you to give up. I was talking to somebody who had created YouTube 15 years before YouTube, and servers or whatever the issue was, right, just didn't exist. But I think there's a lot of personal satisfaction in basically saying, no matter what life throws at me, I'm going to overcome it. And I think that's been my driving force through the pandemic. There's a lot of pride in knowing I'm bigger than anything that possibly can come at me. And because I get so much pleasure from, I guess, winning in that respect and personal alignment, saying it doesn't matter what happens, I'm going to figure it out. That's just the path that I naturally gravitate towards. So if that's your psychology, you'll do well in the pivoting game.
With the amount of money that you've raised, Nate, were you pressured by any investors to force you to pivot, or did you always stand your ground from that standpoint?
Yeah, no, I actually came to them to say, hey, I think we've got a bigger opportunity. And I was really worried hey, some people had put in money early on this private business idea. I'd like to take it another direction. And so I outlined why I thought, we were thinking small and we could think bigger and, again, more relatable to more people more of the time. And I was surprised. Unanimously, everybody nodded their heads and said, yeah, I agree with you. And I think that's part of this pivot is I like to look at as many perspectives as possible before jumping. So I get very excited about an idea. So excited, in fact, I'm now very skeptical when I think I have a great idea. And so I say, okay, let's find out why this idea is a bad idea. And if I can't figure out why it's a bad idea, it's probably a great idea.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Ryan, you look like you're just dying to say something. And I don't want to put you on the spot, but I also want to make sure that you have an opportunity to speak if you want to speak.
Who, me? Do you call me? Oh,
yeah.
I love what everybody is saying. And I'm a big proponent of the pitch perfect. So if you're on the fence, and I actually don't mind talking or pitching, but doing the pitch perfect for me was like, I'm definitely pitching. Like I got my confidence and my mojo from that experience. And so I'll be pitching in November. I'm very excited about that. But I did want to say something about you should pitch as often as possible to whoever will listen. Because I recently pitched to an angel group and I didn't get picked to go on to their due diligence. But unbeknownst to me, I didn't know that this was going to happen. They reached back out to me and said, we like what you're doing. We have an advisor who's been in your space. We'd like to give you this advisoryship. And so I had 3 sessions with an executive from The Real. And I have a B2B multi-vendor e-commerce platform that I call The Real of the wedding industry. And now I have this woman like in my back pocket. I'm trying to sorry. Of course they don't bark until my daughter comes home. But you never know when a pitch is going to turn into something more valuable than money. And I feel like this relationship with this woman is more valuable than anything that I have acquired since I launched the company in January.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that was mentioned too was timing, and timing is like crazy important with everything. So I thought about you when I saw a headline, like, I can't remember how they phrased it, but it was something about how like essentially twice as many or 3 times as many weddings are going to happen in 2021 since nobody was married in 2020. Has that affected your business one way or the other?
So our customers are like dying for us to take their product off of their hands. Yes, we are heating up, which is awesome. And then Crunchbase News just ran an article that basically was like, if you're a wedding startup or an e-commerce startup, like online shopping, you are so hot right now. And I have used that in every pitch, every investor conversation. I have a follow-up investor call on Friday. So everyone pray for me at noontime on Friday, please. And yeah, so it is. It's even, I think somebody said that they came up with the idea for their company like 9 years ago, right? And it took them many years to get it going. The idea for my company came to me in 2016. And it took me 5 years to get it to market. And yet I feel like had I brought it to market before the pandemic, it wouldn't have been as relevant. Like, not that you want a global pandemic to happen at all, but it really did escalate like my business coming to market. And so it is absolutely all about timing, but you just got to be willing to do the work and have the patience and don't give up, because 9 years is a long haul, 5 years is a long haul. But if you know that what you're building is needed, and what you said, you have to check with your customers. Like, I try to have a customer call at least twice a week, just to make sure that I know that what we're building is what they want. And so it's just really important to be in tune with your customers.
Awesome. Anybody?
Are we still talking about pivoting? Are we talking about timing? Are we talking about pivoting? What are we talking about?
We're talking about whatever helps people.
I was gonna just jump back a couple of conversations ago. I think it was Erica was talking about emotional intelligence, and we were simultaneously talking about how important it is to pitch. So if there's anybody that is on the fence about pitching, I coming from the sort of the technical excellence perspective and always, working on my craft and trying to be good from that perspective. When I did finally get out and speak about what I was doing, there was a really great acceleration that happened from sort of doing that. And it's a completely emotional thing. It's a completely, person and relationship based thing. And so even though I believe in the technical side so much, there's just not enough that I can say to like finally coming out from my cave and speaking to other people. So, I met Tim way back when, and Jack jumped out and spoke, and I still talk to Jack on a pretty regular basis. So, it's been great to have, these types of relationships that last a long time. And yes, so many opportunities have come just because I got out one day and said 250 words in front of people. So like, it really, if you're hesitant to that because you're like, my product's not perfect or this or that, or, you're coming up with excuses, I might say that the excuses are either telling you that you don't really want it, or you really do want it and you're just afraid maybe that you can't have it, that type of thing. But I just like shove all that aside. There's a tremendous thing that happens when you get out and you go speak to people that is, your product is always going to be getting better. You're always going to be thinking about ways to improve it. Like, that's just never ending. But when you get that time, and talking about what Tim was on about with timing, these are very special times when you get to do a pitch like this, or there's an event like this going on. There's only so many, only certain people are in the room at that moment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then, you carry on together from that moment forward, and you really don't know what's going to, those are the things, it's like, those are intangibles. You really don't know what's going to go on with that. I mean, we're working on your product. You have a little bit of a better idea of what's going to come from that. But when you get out and you start talking with other people, that's when things branch out like way beyond anything that you can foresee, in your own mind. It just opens up your possibility space. So go pitch for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing to me. And we talk about this all the time, is making yourself honorable and having enough courage to make yourself honorable, because there's so many people that want to help you. But if you don't tell someone how you can be helped, they can't help you. And, so tell people. And the other thing that I noticed with everyone tonight is you all are so successful because routinely you are all the ones that raise your hands right away, just like I point out with Nate. But anytime there's an opportunity, you raise your hands and you take advantage of the opportunities, where so many other people don't do it, but then they'll want to complain that they were left out. So, continue to take advantage of those opportunities. So, for example, there's an information session tomorrow about 757 Accelerate. Applications are due for 7.5 Accelerate on the 16th. So that's your next logical step that you're going to take, is to be an investable company, and you'll learn those skills when you go through an accelerator. So just continue to put yourself out there, be willing to learn. It's amazing what will happen.
One more thing. I'm just, so many thoughts are rapid firing off. When you have that thought that you might want to get up and pitch, and talking about timing and everything, sometimes you don't realize how important your thoughts are and the timing and everything like that. When you really start to get on a roll, you will start to value literally every single thought that comes through your mind. And so, that's kind of, I have to say, that's kind of where I feel like I'm at right now. Like, I don't want to let a single thought escape, and I don't want to let anything else in that will detract from the thing that I'm trying to focus on and think about it, which is interesting. And there's a little bit of maybe conflict in what I'm saying there. But if you're having that thought, really important, take it, value it. And then as you scale up, you're going to realize that every thought that runs through your mind is valuable in some way, shape, or form. And you'll start taking yourself more seriously. You'll start valuing yourself more and more and more. And the only way that what you're building is going to become anything is if you feel that way about you and your time. So.
Yeah, I got a question on personal chat for asking about, habits that made me successful. And so with this group and if people have to drop off, they have to drop off. That's really cool. But I mean, so if you look back 3 years ago when we had, when Jason Calacanis came to town, I mean, I couldn't tell you how many sleepless nights that I had. I mean, just the thought of, one, pitching the idea to have him, two, then when he agreed to come to this, to come to Newport News, and then to organize 7 different people to pitch in front of him, in front of the live audience. I mean, that was just ridiculous. I mean, so like for that, I mean, I didn't think that I was ever going to sleep again, during all the weeks leading up to that. And it turned out to be just an awesome event. And I mean, when he took for those that weren't there, he took everybody out we went to BJ's Brew House afterwards. He took everybody out. He threw down his credit card. He bought for everybody all night long. And it was, I mean, so like for me, I took the biggest leap of faith I ever could make. And it worked. And I could have just stayed on the sidelines and been like, what coulda, shoulda, woulda. And the thing is now, I mean, we're still in contact. And my inbox is just, I get all the deal memos and am investing with him now. And it's just crazy to see, what that has come to. And now we have a direct line so that when people are ready, we can reach out to someone like him. And talking about timing and COVID and everything else, I mean, he doesn't care where customers are located or where companies are located anymore. I mean, everything is done remotely now, and he's investing in tons of companies that he's never met the founder. So for me, it's just, just really put myself out there and like you all, you're learning how to fly this plane when it's in the air, and what happens, and we'll help each other along the way.
That's an awesome story, by the way. Thank you.
Yeah, it was wild.
I agree. I was there, and it's awesome to remember. And I think this is going back to some of the advice that we're all hearing. You gotta be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And if you don't like to push yourself into uncomfortable situations just to see where your limits actually are, usually it's not where you think they are, then I think this is going to be a weird journey. You're probably going to be one of those people who are not going to want feedback and are not going to be listening to customers, right? I think so. I can imagine pitching could be, if that's scary. What's the quote? I think it's Eleanor Roosevelt, usually attributed to, you must do the thing you fear you cannot do. I think a lot of us who have pitched probably believe in something like that. I know I certainly do. And Tim, I think your story sums that up really well.
Yeah, that was a ton of fun. And a lot of people still talk about it today, which is cool. And I can't wait for him to fund one of the companies that we have here. Awesome.
Tim, can I for the female founders, throw out a couple of resources?
Yeah.
And I'll put it in the chat. But for the female founders, if you are not part of Female Founder Collective and Women Founders Network and I Fund Women, I would look into all three of those organizations. I get a lot of my accelerator program information and pitch competitions through those three networks. So it's been every day there's intelligence coming in that I can leverage. So find your female founder networks to support you as you grow.
Awesome. Love it. I know people are jumping off, which is totally cool. If you have to, that's fine. I'm going to stick around until people are done talking or whatever, but I hope you all benefited from this. I know I learned a ton. I really appreciate all the feedback that you shared. And we have this been recorded, so we'll send a copy out to everybody that attended so that they can view it, to revisit any things that we talked about. We can just keep on chatting.
Jeremy, do you think there's going to be a lot of innovation in the live content delivery space like that you're in?
Yeah, I think that's the anticipation, is that especially as we head more and more into a work culture and a culture period that is online all the time and wants to be able to connect across the globe to somebody that's not right next to them. Yeah, that is the case. And I look at it a little bit like games. In the early days, every game was coded to the machine by hand. Something like Pong, you'd actually like put the circuits on the board to make that game. And then Woz came along and was like, hey, I want to make games just using software. And so he made, his game basic like programming language for the Apple II, and he was making games with it. That's what he wanted to do. And then we had, a period of time where everybody was using like custom C++ engines for a long time. Everybody has their own. And then eventually everybody just makes their game with like Unity or Unreal, maybe Godot at this point. And so eventually it all rolls up. Somebody figures out how to make that stem cell product where it's like you could make any number of things with this product. Like the possibility of the space that this product can generate is enormous. And we're sort of at the point now where we're using Zoom right now, and Zoom has their own stack for building like a streaming application, and it has a whole bunch of capabilities. But I'm sure that there's somebody that doesn't like something that Zoom does, or they're like, wouldn't it be cool if it was Zoom, but it did this, or whatever. So I foresee a future where there are at least 1,000 apps that are streaming based apps that need to be developed. And if that's true, then you need an engine to build all of those apps, right? Like, why should every one of those people reinvent the wheel that Zoom, and others have done sort of independently of themselves, when you could just have a tool for like, I'm going to sit down and build, a streaming app. So Stream SDK, I called it a real-time interactive streaming engine. And yeah, like that's the point. And the thinking is that there's going to be at least 1,000 streaming apps, and people that want to build those streaming apps need a tool to build them.
Gotcha.
I was going to call it Jack. I was going to, since Jack's in the room, and we spoke a little bit earlier, but as a mentor, Jack, if you're listening, how do you feel about, I think you've been to probably every Start Peninsula, and how do you feel watching it from the first event, on up to where we are now? The format changes, the people who have been pitching, the ideas that have been pitching, I think that the area has certainly matured. Like, there's things that need to be done to, increase the success rate of companies in the region. But, kind of how are we doing, especially from somebody like yourself that, really built a big company, and, you kind of know, what to look for. You're on mute.
Excuse me, I was muted. I think the answer to your question from my perspective is that each one, as it's gone through the years, has gotten better and better as the running of them has improved. I think the quality of the companies and the quality of the pitches have improved dramatically because of the pitch competitions leading into it. Because remember, when we started it, there wasn't anything like that. It was just that night, and people showed up and they gave their pitches, and so they really didn't have any prep training to put the pitches together. And that changed dramatically once they started Pitch Perfect and went doing that. Some unfortunately, personal situations in my life have caused me to kind of drop out of the circuit here for the last year. So I'm not sure, except what I heard from Tim tonight. I really like the idea of what he was describing tonight as to what they're doing this year. That really seems to me to be a big improvement over how it's progressed. I think as the proof is in the pudding, there's some really successful companies that have been given birth out of the process. Now, this didn't create that. The people themselves created that. But this was sort of a starting point for them to get them boosted and started. So I think it was helpful to them. I think they would all agree that it was helpful to them to get started. I think what they were trying to do this year would be better. I would like to see, I'm not sure how you would do this, but I would like to see more investor participation as audience, if nothing else, to the process. I haven't seen an awful lot of that. I'd really like to see more of that. I don't know how you get them interested enough. Maybe as they improve, as the companies improve in the process, you might get more interest like that.
Yeah, and especially as deal flow is getting hard to come by, there's a lot more money than there is quality companies out there. Hopefully that will help. But yeah, we're always looking to see how we can do that and include more investors in the audience. And to your point, Jeremy, and to a lot of, I make sure that we view Start Peninsula as, we're a business or a startup within ourselves. So we had to listen to our customers being the people that we're pitching. We knew that people were like, gosh, we love to be here all weekend long, but it's really difficult. We're getting pulled in so many different directions. So it became increasingly more difficult to get people to hang out all weekend long. And then if you looked at it from the amount of time it would take to get speakers and mentors and coordinate food, because we had breakfast, lunch, and dinner and snacks. It was just a lot of time that was put into that. So we listened to our customers and we pivoted as well. And, listening to the progress of the companies that have advanced already with the first 2 micro pitch competitions that are going to pitch in November. Hopefully no one's on the fence about pitching, but man, they've improved so much just in the past couple of months that it's like, it's going to be some tough competition come November, because there's some, Maya's doing great things. Chris is doing great things. There are other companies as well that are just pushing. And it's awesome to see.
It sounded like you were talking a little bit about were you just talking about getting investors in the seats, or are you talking about getting investor participation as the new sort of like long form competition is going on, that people are actually earning investment dollars as they're getting towards the end?
Well, I think it's unrealistic to expect very much in the way of investors' investment decisions being made out of the process. Sure. This process. That's not realistic. Obviously, like we had in the beginning, we had a few investors that were willing to put a relatively small investment in to help some, but that really doesn't make a significant impact on. So no, I wasn't thinking about having the investors in there as much of making investment decisions. And from your point of view as the company, it almost seems like a waste of time to be talking to people that aren't going to be writing checks. But on the other hand, the feedback you might get from those investors would be better than some of the feedback you're getting now, because they're the ones that ultimately are going to be writing checks, and you might get more feedback as to why they would or would not invest. Not that you're looking for them to do it then.
Yeah, I could say from hanging out with you, when I got into Start Peninsula, in those early days, I do believe that I put a hefty value on the idea of raising money. And from hanging out with Jack a good amount, I've actually further and further reduced, I think, the amount that I think that's important. If you're raising money, it probably should be because you have traction such that you can't meet the demand signal. And if you don't have that strong of a demand signal, it could be because you're not listening to feedback on your customers. Maybe that's what you really want to do. It could also be because you as the founder, that's not really what you want to do, or the juice is not worth the squeeze of what you've chosen to do. So I think for myself personally, a couple other people mentioned this. I think it was Nate that mentioned that he pivoted a few times just because he saw bigger opportunities. When I came into Start Peninsula, I think that's kind of what I was looking to do was, pitch this idea, raise some money, build it out, create something utilitarian. Those are my motivations. And then I think I also learned that a lot of problems aren't necessarily solved with money, although I have seen other folks burn through money incredibly quickly. And then just from that personal side of things, I do think you really, really, really have to believe in what you're doing before you ask anybody for money. And you have to, you might have to experiment a little bit or pivot a little bit, try one thing and be like, this is either, not a big enough opportunity, or maybe you just find out like, wow, that is just not for me. I remember maybe a few months, I'm trying to think how long this is. It might have been a year after the first start, trying to write a pitch for Jack to explain what I do and what, my business was and things like that. What I wanted to build. And then I realized I was on a plane. I got an opportunity because of Start, actually, where I got to go to Europe, which was pretty cool. I kind of took I took a lot of little side quests after Start. But I was watching the movie about, his name escapes me right now, but the WikiLeaks guy, Julian Assange. And I was like, I can't believe this guy did what he did. Like he's a controversial figure, but say what you will about him or, politically, yada, yada. But that guy believed in what he was doing, like to an extreme extent. And I was like, I'm writing this document about just a business that I want to do. But it was like, I do not believe necessarily in what I'm writing. And I don't know if I believe in anything really to this extent. Like I did believe that I wanted to do the process to the extent that I was willing to put everything out there that was, in my business or in my, heart or whatever, and send it over to Jack for validation. But that was all I believed, when it actually came down to whatever the idea was or whatever, I just wasn't there yet. And I think that there's something to be said for like really believing in the thing that you're going to, you've got a kind of a gift that you want to give back to the world. You want to serve the world a certain way. And for me personally, anyway, I mean, this might be different for other people, but for me personally, it's like, to start asking people for money, it was like I would have to believe in it to an extreme extent, is what I found. And so, yeah, you'd have to be willing to kind of like walk on fire, that type of thing. So coming up with that thing that you believe in that strongly, I found to be one of the greatest challenges of the whole entrepreneurial journey.
I don't want to take anything away from the fact that you have to really believe it. If you think of what Janae and Nate have gone through this year during the pandemic, you got to really believe in what you're doing to be able to follow through and do what they're doing. At the same time, from the investor perspective, yes, they want to see that you believe in it, that they're more important. They're much more interested in proving that the market believes in it, because that's the fastest way to burn through a bunch of money, giving money to somebody that's got a real belief in something that's not going to sell. So you've got to prove that there's a market, not just that you believe in it.
Oh yeah, they have to align. Like it's got to be like, well, this is a thing that I could do, and this is a thing people want me to do. I mean, obviously, but if you come up and sure, I agree with what Jack's saying. If you have something that you want to do, but nobody cares about that, well, you can't do that. But simultaneously, if the market's like, well, I'll take this, and you're like, well, I don't really want to do that. I mean, you shouldn't do that thing just because the market's, telling you that that's a thing that they want. At least from my perspective, I don't think you should, because you could get into that and a lot of, I just feel like you're going to burn out if you take that type of path. You will eventually realize that there are things that are going to be pulling you away from that thing if you're just trying to fulfill the demand in the market. So I think there has to be an alignment between what you feel like you want to contribute and what other people are asking you to contribute.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, one of the things that I have learned being on these calls with Jason and his syndicate, because I laugh when people go around the room and talk about the check size they write, because I'm like, what am I even doing here? I should still be at the kids' table. So I say that in the sense of I know the playbook, what these guys are looking for. And, just being straight honest, I mean, this area, we have a lot of work to do. I mean, in terms of what the traction is, what your revenue is, month over month growth, users, revenue, even having enough runway. Do you have 12 to 18 months of runway? And how much work is going to go into that in order to get to that point? And we just don't have a lot of companies right now that meet those requirements. And until we get to that point, until someone's ready to fall on their sword or die trying to get to that point, we're going to continue to limp along a little bit unless we find some people that are really willing to write checks. But we have some work to do.
I'd like to say, Jeremy, thank you for what you said, because I guess that's kind of what I was getting at when I was asking earlier where people are in their pitch. I have a lot of big ideas, but most of my ideas are little, and I'm also a fiercely independent person. My biggest fear about giving a pitch isn't giving a pitch, but somebody wanting to fund it. Quite honestly with you, I'm not ready to do any of them, and if I do them, I probably want to do them myself. I'm more involved in this to meet other entrepreneurs, to learn, to just find out what's out there and who's doing what. Small fry, yeah, hell yeah. I'm the small home business guy, and that's what I want. I see some of you have massive, incredible projects, and I hope they go. That's just not me at this point, maybe someday, but I was kind of getting at, is this for me, or should I just go and read some forms somewhere else? I mean, it's just kind of, I want to meet other entrepreneurs. I work all day at a different job and then come home and take care of my animals. So I don't have other people to talk to as far as this goes.
I would say definitely pitch, because nobody's going to throw you a ton of money right away.
No. And, to me, a pitch is asking for money, and I really don't want to ask for money. I'll definitely pitch if it's just to get the experience and to get feedback, if nothing else, on the project,
Yeah, I don't think it's that. I think it's going to be more feedback, et cetera, and not, just like I'm literally just pitching to get money right now. In my experience, that's not how it works.
Yeah, I was kind of curious how most people in the room feel about it when you pitch. Is it literally hoping for money, or advice, or camaraderie, or other people to chat with?
When I first pitched, Busky Barrel was my encouragement. I actually met with him, and he sat down with me at Starbucks and said, "Janae, you have a good idea." Now, mind you, it was not the exact idea that I have today with Senior Runs, but it was a starting point. And so I had always been a solopreneur. So I never imagined myself at this particular level of entrepreneurship. I was solopreneur minded. And so I knew how to do that really well. So I did not come into Start thinking, oh, I'm going to raise, $1.5 million in capital. That wasn't the idea. The idea for me was I was starting over as an entrepreneur, as I had many failures, and I was being encouraged to give it another try. And so when I stepped into Start, when they did their first or second one, I just did it just to build up my courage to give my entrepreneurial journey another try. And it morphed into me now being in a position where I can ask for money for a project that is a lot larger than what I had imagined myself as a solopreneur. Now I am no longer just self-serving, which was my whole focus as an entrepreneur. I wanted to take care of my family and make money. And, I could do that easily on my own. But then my vision as I got older was larger. And so I think what it really comes down to is, who are you serving and what is the magnitude of the service that you want to provide? Who are you trying to impact? Are you just trying to impact your local community? Are you trying to impact the nation? Are you trying to impact the world? And you start start with where you are. And then I think as you pitch and you get involved and connected with other entrepreneurs, you'll start to figure out where you fit in. And that's pretty much how it happened for me. It was not a decision that I made at the very beginning. It was a step-by-step process and me learning myself, listening to the advice that I was given, and people just encouraging me to think bigger than solopreneurship if that's what I wanted to do. And that was after I examined everything and met other people, I said, you know what, I want to create something that really impacts a lot of people. Well, you're going to need a lot of money to be able to support something like that. So you're getting started, you're going to pitch, and then you're going to have years and years of building your skill set, networking, and doing all the things and becoming the person that you need to become in order to make the impact at the level that you want. So I think you need to figure out for yourself, if that's what you've already done, that I want to just be a solopreneur, or I'm not quite sure if I want to build something larger than solopreneurship. But I think getting around other entrepreneurs will help you to really clarify that.
And also these the pitch competition is free to watch. So you might want to watch one and then you can participate in the one after that if you like it.
Sounds like a good idea.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate everyone sticking around and chatting. It was awesome to catch up with everyone.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, this is, we shouldn't have to wait another 9 years to do something like this again. But if there's anything I can do for anybody, please, by all means, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to connect anybody with anybody. And I wish you all continued success on whatever it is that you are going after. And if I can be of any assistance to you all, please let me know. And I hope to see you at the hope to see you all at the next Start event, either micro pitch or the final pitch or whatever, or mentor or whatever. You know, we are all the next generation.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, I just want to say, Janae, that was what you just said was awesome, and every entrepreneur should watch that.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you.
Cool. Well,
See, this has been recorded. Where will it be available for parts I missed?
We'll send a link to everybody. It'll either be on the it'll be on YouTube, or we'll send the link out to everyone.
Yeah, I'll add in there. It'll be live as soon as we end this. It'll be recorded and it's up on YouTube as we're presenting. So Start Peninsula YouTube, you can check it out.
Awesome.
Thanks, Tim and Gavin. This was
Right.
great.
Good night. Thank you again.
Guys.
Hey, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.